It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Welcome to the Hockey Writers Grindline. I am your host, Patrick Brown, and joining me as always, Devin Little and Kyle Knopp. Kyle, how you doing today?
Doing great. Excited to start my weekend with you guys.
Likewise. Devin, how are you today? How's the internet? Good?
God, I hope so.
Well, good to see you. You're coming in loud and clear right now. So here's hoping for that. And we have a very special guest joining us. Always welcome, as we say. The locker is always open and ready for him. Ian McNaughton, the one and only. Ian, how are you?
I'm doing really great, Pat. It's beautiful in British Columbia. As always, it's starting to feel like summer here. And before the day, I didn't even know I was going to be on the show. But now I'm here. Now we can do a show together and we can talk some Red Wings together. That's what I'm really excited to do. Talk some Red Wings with you guys.
Well, we miss you. We're glad to have you back on. And you know, as we always say, that's why the locker stall is reserved. Anytime you feel like dropping in, you're more than welcome. So thanks for joining. Let's dive right in and let's go back to an oldie but a goodie that we had started off a few shows with. One good, one bad from the last week. I like it, Devin. I like it. We're going to let our guest start first since he's had the least amount of time to prepare for the show. Ian, one good, one bad from the week that was.
I mean, we were talking before we recorded about Dominic Ducharme and the Montreal Canadiens and their COVID situation. Obviously, it's terrible to see because you wish nothing but good health to Ducharme. You're thankful that the rest of the team doesn't have any positives. So hopefully Ducharme can get back to normal health and possibly even get back into the series if things really go well. But as of Friday when we record this, he got the COVID test positive today. So here's hoping you get better, Dominic.
What's good, Ian? What's good?
Negative
Nelly over here.
We only brought him on for his negative takes.
Yeah, I know. It's all negative, no positive. No, my positive I have this week is Rod Brind'Amour getting a new contract with the Carolina Hurricanes.
And what else?
Well, he won the Jack Adams.
Absolutely. I'd say that was a really good day.
So
a Rodtastic day.
Oh God.
All right. I wasn't gonna say that, but yeah. He's a Rodtastic, sure. Why not? What do I care? But no,
I see you guys don't read your morning skate.
Yeah, and it was to be fair, it was radical. Kyle.
Oh, sorry. That's true.
It was a totally radical day.
See, I don't read the morning skate.
I love that we are 3 minutes into the show and completely off the rails already. Welcome back, Ian. Welcome back.
Rod Brind'Amour. He's had a good week. Rod Brind'Amour. Had a great
week. Ian. I love it. Devin, we'll swing it over to you. One good, one bad for the week.
My bad, I'll start with the bad like Ian, is Chandler Stevenson is out and it sounds like he's got concussion symptoms rather. And he is a very key piece for my Vegas Golden Knights. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they recover in his absence. They've looked decent without him, but he is a big piece for them.
Sure.
Switching over to the good. Crossing my fingers on this one, but with Gerard Gallant being hired as the Rangers coach, I don't have to hear about how the Red Wings need to hire him for at least another year. So I'm excited about that.
That's a good take. That's a really good take. I like it. I like it. Kyle, bring us home a good and a bad from the week that was.
Well, thank you for letting me go last so they could pull off my notes for both of those. I had Gallant going to New York for the good. I think that's going to be a great fit over there. I'm excited to see him work with that young core. I think he's a good coach, and I think he's really going to turn them around in the next couple of years. So, hats off to him. Hats off to the New York Rangers for finding that fit. I'm very excited for that. My bad was Ducharme. Just cross that out. And I'm going to put in the New York Islanders not getting enough energy at the Nassau Coliseum in Game 3.
For sure.
They didn't feed off that. That was the big storyline coming into the series. And as my Lightning fans will tell you, they're sick of hearing everyone on social media say how they're such a quiet stadium, but Nassau's so loud. Well, I think the Lightning were the team that fed off that energy more and really, played the Islanders' own game back in their face. And if New York can't figure that out tomorrow night or tonight as you're watching it Saturday, they're done. I think they're done. So
I did think of it. I had somebody earlier this week, Kyle, tell me about the whole Florida isn't a hockey state, and went through the whole conversation with them, and it's just really we don't need to have this conversation. It's so ridiculous and so outdated.
And to go on a little tangent off that, the whole Mickey Mouse Club, you have a Mickey Mouse team put together. I think Gretzky said that about the Devils back in the 80s when they moved over from Kansas City or whatever, the Scouts to the Devils. I want to say, I could be wrong. If so, let me know in the comments. I will read them and like them, but I won't appreciate them. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Boy. We will appreciate them. But so to get back on track, I think, when fans say that, all they're saying is that they don't understand that hockey has evolved as a sport, and because of the sport and it's a entertainment business, you have good talent all across the North America, the US and Canada. So it doesn't matter where the team is, you're going to have good players and you're going to have guys that are going to want to compete.
Got it. It's like you used to cover the Lightning and took that personally or something. I have to say.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to add was that I think people are upset about the whole Tampa Bay being $18 million over the salary cap, and I'm sure there's some animosity towards that. But
sure,
I don't want to get into that whole debate. But find something else to complain about. There's other stuff to complain about. Find something else.
We've got a jam-packed show, so we're gonna move on. But I do want to say I think there's something to the fans taking some pride in their own arena and in what they do. I mean, I'm a proud Iowa State alum. I've made no secret of it. And Jack Trice Stadium, which I'm gonna get emails about this too, I'm sure, but I believe they hold around 70,000 fans, 60,000, 70,000 fans. And we just think it's the loudest stadium on earth when you're there. And so, I think there's a measure of pride that fans have where everybody thinks they have the loudest building. And, those with more history drive into that a little bit more. But in any case, let's move ahead here and let's talk about the NHL draft. Make sure, wonderful viewer, to go to thehockeywriters.com, check out not only our overarching 2021 NHL entry draft coverage, which is incredible, and so many people, my colleague Matthew leading the way, so many people working night and day on this, but Devin as well has put together, along with our cohort Tony, we'll see you sometime, Tony, I'm sure, they've put together an awesome draft page for the Red Wings. And I want to talk about this year's draft, since sadly we don't have playoffs to talk about. How critical is this year to the rebuild compared to previous years? They've got a couple of number one first round picks. I wish couple of number one picks, couple of first round picks. And I liken it to the 2015 Bruins draft. If you guys remember that. Who couldn't, they had 12, 13, 14, and they got who? DeBrusque. Who? So, what happens if Yzerman does the unthinkable and has that kind of draft? Is it devastating to the rebuild? Ian, guests first. How critical is this draft to the rebuild?
Critical is a little bit of an extreme term, I think, to use for this draft. I think it's important. Like any draft when you're a rebuilding team, I think it's important, especially when you have a number of picks like the Red Wings do, like 5 picks in the first 2 rounds. Sure, it's very important. Critical, I don't know that it's critical. I mean, again, this draft is going to be such a wild card. I have no idea. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea what direction any team is going to go. Even the Red Wings, I don't know what direction Yzerman is going in. But I do think it's important, like any draft, it's important to scout, draft the right players, develop players. That's very important. I don't know that this is a critical draft.
Sure. And, for what it's worth, before I toss it over to you, Kyle, I actually, as much as I love the picks, I don't think it's critical. I don't feel as if this draft is critical. I feel as if the critical pieces are already being developed, if I'm being totally honest. Obviously, not the, still finished way back in the league. Need the help, need the high draft picks. I'm not discounting that, but I believe the pieces are very much in motion already. And what can be picked and developed is complementary to what the team has. Kyle, your thoughts?
I think both of you, make great points there. Every draft is critical to a team in the middle of a rebuild. I mean, let's not overlook how important drafts are when we're, talking about rebuilding your franchise's core. Excuse me. So in that term, yes, it's critical, obviously. Is it as important as some of the last few drafts we've had? I don't think so. I think, with it being so wide open in the top 10, top 25, top 32 for this year, or I guess only 31 since Arizona's giving up their pick. Anyone could fall anywhere. Now that we know Owen Power's going back to Michigan, he could fall into the late round. Who knows? It's really going to depend on what team feels the best player that is available at that time can fit into their system. So I think, Pat, exactly, complementary is the key word here. You need to find those pieces that are going to complement the draft prospects we already have, because those are the core. And then I think next year and the year after will again be huge draft pieces, because you kind of see what pieces of that core are sticking around and what have been either moved on for other pieces or just didn't quite develop like you had. But I think in terms of this draft being critical, I don't think so.
Makes sense. Devin, you're bringing us home. How critical is the draft this year's draft to the Red Wings rebuild?
I would say that critical is not the right word, but important is definitely an applicable word. I think you can go as of June 2021, here we are recording this. I think you can look at this draft and be like, all right, you want some players, but if you don't get a game changer, it's fine. But of course, what you hope for and what you'd like to see 3 years from now is to look back on this draft class and go, oh my God, I can't believe they found this player. So in that sense, I think it's important because you hope that you can look back and be like, wow, they really got a gem there. Those players are out there. They might not come in the first round. They might end up being a 4th round pick. This is such a scatter shot draft class that it's important that they get players. Maybe it's not important that they get the best, but they do need to hit.
Absolutely. So all good thoughts. If you're watching at home, go to the website, check out all the coverage, and we're going to continue to crank out more draft coverage until that happens. And also keep in mind, we'll be talking about it a lot on future shows as well. So we are just scratching the surface right now. And before I get any comments correcting me about the Bruins draft, I do want to go on record and say earlier this week, Cam Neely literally admitted the 2015 draft was a disaster. So before I get any angry comments from Bruins fans, Neely said it first, not me. So one more thing to kind of close out this segment. We're talking about some prospects. We're talking about development. Other news that came out of Detroit this week, Albert Johansson was loaned to the SHL again. I don't know if that's a surprise or not, to be honest. I was hoping to see him here. He played pretty well last year, but I can't say that's a surprise per se. But what does that mean in terms of his development? When will we see him in Grand Rapids? When will we see him in Detroit? And I'm going to start with the man in Grand Rapids, Mr. Devin. Devin, what does this mean for Johansson's development?
I think that ultimately he is going to play more in Sweden, and that is ultimately why they're keeping him there. And I don't think that's a bad thing whatsoever. Like you, I was crossing my fingers that he would make his North American debut this coming season. But at the end of the day, I see the value in him playing big minutes over there as opposed to, feeling his way out and playing third and maybe second line
Sure.
minutes in Grand Rapids. I think that maybe at the end of this next season, he might come over and maybe finish out the year with Grand Rapids.
Absolutely.
And so I think that that's kind of your timeline just in terms of North America. Detroit, I think the season after next is where you're looking for him to push for a roster spot.
It'd be nice to see Grand Rapids go on an extended playoff run to give him even more time. But I mean, I'm just getting greedy now. Kyle, your thoughts on Johansson's development and what returning to the SHL is going to mean for him?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably the best fit right now for Johansson and getting that playing time, like Devin mentioned. The SHL is a good league. They're a league full of men. We just watched Mort Sider play over there, who had played in the AHL last year, and he continued his dominance. But that's because he's going to be one of those gems that really develops and becomes one of those top tier players, I believe. So I think getting Johansson over there for another season, he's back home. He's able to train. There's still the issue with traveling and COVID and whatnot. Yeah. So, as things kind of are quieting down, wrapping up as we get more vaccinations out there over the next 8 months, maybe we'll get him back in Grand Rapids toward the end of the year or end of the season, I should say. So like February, March. Yep. And then I think, I have written down here, and I think the year after next is when he really makes his splash in the AHL, and we probably see him up and down quite a bit. But, I think we're still 2 years removed from seeing him on the regular, but I think going to the SHL is wonderful for his development.
I like it. Good thoughts. Ian, bring us home. Your thoughts on Johansson playing next season in the SHL. What's that do for him and for the team?
I think for the team and Steve Yzerman, it just buys more time, which is what they have is time. There's no urgency. There's no rush. And unless you want to go out of your way to, speed up the rebuild, which I don't think any of us really want it to be rushed. We want it to be a good rebuild, a job well done. Yeah. And that's the thing about sending Johansson back to the SHL is that he's going to get more playing time. He's probably going to get more experience, more exposure over there than having him in a sheltered role in Grand Rapids. Now, this time next year, I hope to be talking about him maybe being in a Red Wings training camp, maybe being in Grand Rapids full time.
Sure.
But this kind of, as we go along, it just buys the Red Wings and Steve Yzerman a bit more time in the rebuild.
Yeah, really good stuff. And Ian, you said something there that perked my ears about rushing the rebuild. And I'm sorry, but if we're going to rush the rebuild, we should have been rushing it already. So at this point, I totally agree. Let it be. I'm going to put all three of you on the spot. I just want a yes or no answer. You don't have to provide any sort of explanation, but barring a trade of any sort, is Johansson the type of player, will we see him as a regular with the Red Wings at some point down the road? Just curious on your opinion on that. I'm going to go right down the line. Kyle?
As a true regular.
That's more than yes or no.
I'm going to say no.
Okay. Devin?
At some point in time, is that what you're asking?
At any point in time, barring a trade, will we see him like a full-time Red Wing?
Yes.
Ian?
Yes.
I think so as well. So Kyle, you're in the minority. Sorry, but
you said you wanted a hot take. So.
Well, I like it. I like it. And it was 118 degrees here in Phoenix, so that is a hot take in itself. So
that might be the hottest take we got.
Good stuff. Let's pay some bills really quick. Take a quick time out. Thank you so much for watching our show. Give us a like, subscribe to the Hockey Writers YouTube channel. There's so much good stuff on here. Blackhawks banter, Sabres scoop, chicks and sticks, and always, always, always the OG show, Hockey Writers Live with Mark Shag. Follow us on Twitter. Sign up for our morning newsletter. Get the best hockey news delivered right to you, no matter how you want to get it. So appreciate you watching. Leave a comment, leave a like, and we really enjoy engaging with you guys. And we appreciate you watching. We really do. It means a lot to us. So, all right, let's get back to a little fun. A lot of teams are having this fun. At least a lot of teams who arguably aren't playing hockey anymore are having a little fun with this. Dougie Hamilton, ladies and gentlemen. Dougie Hamilton. In case you've been living under a rock, Even though he becomes an unrestricted free agent on July 28th, he is already talking with teams, or at least has been given permission to informally speak with teams to test the free agency waters. So I ask this of you: should the Red Wings pursue Dougie Hamilton? And I've got a follow-up about another player, so just focus on Dougie right now. Should the Red Wings pursue Dougie Hamilton, whether it's a sign and trade, whether it's a long-term deal? I'm curious as to your thoughts, and we will start with you this time, Kyle.
Yeah, so when you first brought it up about going after Dougie Hamilton, and I've talked a couple times with a couple different fans, and I was on another podcast earlier this week talking about the potential for us going after Hamilton or Seth Jones.
How dare you?
And it has to be a guess. I threw your name out there. Don't be mad. And, as much as I would like a Dougie Hamilton or a Seth Jones, and I think they'd really help shore up our defense, I think if we were to take one of them, that means we're moving for sure away from Stetcher or Hronik, who are two of our younger, better right-handed puck-moving defensemen. And it's not addressing any of our current needs at the left-handed or at the left defenseman position or with any left-handed puck-moving defenseman. So in my mind, if we are for sure getting rid of Stetcher, either we're not protecting him or we're looking to trade him or Hronik ahead of the expansion draft, then yeah, sure, we should go after Hamilton. I think that'd be a great idea. Now, when you brought up the sign and trade option, that really kind of piqued my interest a bit because there's one name that got floated out to us on social media, and that was Morgan Riley from the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I know that they are wanting a Hamilton type for their defensive core. Riley wants out of there. I think might be in our best interest to sign Hamilton and then offer up a trade for Riley and maybe work something out with the Maple Leafs. Yes, sorry.
I was going to say on the spot right now, Kyle, I'm sorry, but if you do sign and trade Hamilton, what do you sign him to?
It's a great question. He is 28 years old. He's probably realistically, probably like a 3-4 year deal. If he might be looking for something a little more long-term, especially if he's looking to retire at his next place. If the sign and trade is on the table, maybe you do lock him in for a 7-year deal to go to Toronto. That gets him till he's 35. That's not horrible.
No, definitely. Yeah. If that's Yzerman's first deal over 4 years, that would be stunning.
But if he knows it's part of a sign and trade and Toronto's looking to keep him that long-term, why not do it when we have the room?
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. I think all really good points. Ian, I want to throw it over to you. Your thoughts on potentially bringing Dougie Hamilton on board and how?
Man, here's the thing. I know I just spoke about rushing the rebuild like 2 seconds ago.
Literally just happened. Just rewind.
Just happened.
Minutes.
Like you just have to hit the 30 seconds rewind on the YouTube thing, and you can just see me talking about it. But I am someone who also believes you bring in the best player or talented players whenever you have the opportunity. I don't know that the Red Wings are going to be in on Hamilton because I'm sure he's going to be asking for a 7, if not 8-year deal because he's talking about a sign and trade with Carolina. I don't know that Yzerman or the Red Wings would be interested in something like that. It's not something I'd totally be interested in as a fan, is signing a big long-term deal to someone who has never been within the organization before, even though I like Dougie Hamilton. I think he's a fantastic defenseman, nothing against the guy. I just don't know that you want to commit 7 years to someone who has not been within your organization. And we've talked about it with the Manta deal where the timelines didn't work out, and the Dougie Hamilton timeline is not quite with the Detroit Red Wings timeline. But I'm all ears to putting out an offer and seeing what Dougie Hamilton's interested in. I definitely would be asking. I'd make a phone call if I were Steve Yzerman, seeing what's out there.
Yeah, I suspect he's gotten a phone call or two. Devin, your thoughts on the Dougie Hamilton situation, and does Detroit even entertain an offer?
In a vacuum, Yes, because Dougie Hamilton is one of the best defensemen in the league. And when you have a chance to get those guys, you have to go for it. However, we're not in a vacuum. And like Kyle mentioned, they're already pretty much set on the right side, barring any sort of maneuvers. They've got Hronik, they've got Seider coming, they've got Stetcher, they've even got Gustav Lidstrom that might factor in there somewhere.
Sure.
They don't need another right-handed defenseman unless they plan on putting somebody on their offside. And I guess you could bring Hamilton in because then, like Kyle said, you can move a guy and potentially address a need elsewhere. However, I think that's just that's a lot of that's an added headache that you're bringing on yourself. And like Ian just said as well, the timeline thing. Dougie Hamilton is 28. He's in his prime, but by the time the Red Wings are good and good enough to like be, contenders, how old is Dougie Hamilton?
Right.
And why is he still making $10 million? That is what worries me about signing Dougie Hamilton. I love him at 28. I'm sure I'll love him at 32. Will I still like him at 35 and he's making 10 mil? Probably not.
No, at that point, he'll probably be liking long-term injured reserve unless they change it up. Because we've certainly seen this story play out many, many times.
Pat, let me cut you off right there.
Yeah.
Before you either transfer to us to the next segment or put your own 2 cents in, let me throw this out to everyone. Would you rather have Hamilton or Seth Jones if it was we were going with one of the two?
Who are we kicking that to? Ian, kick it off.
I was going to say I would rather have Dougie Hamilton and Morgan Riley over Seth Jones. Either one of them were options, but I like all 3 of them, but I would rather have Hamilton and Riley over Jones.
Okay. Devin?
Hamilton.
Okay. Pat?
Yeah, I'd take Dougie Hamilton for sure.
I was just curious.
Kyle?
I might take Seth Jones. He's a little bit younger, and I really think a resurgence is coming for him once he gets out of Columbus.
The one reason I would go after Seth Jones instead of Hamilton is because I think I could get him from less from Columbus than I could Carolina. That's the only reason I think I would go for Seth Jones.
Sorry, go ahead, Devin.
And I don't say Hamilton because I don't like Seth Jones. I think we can all agree Seth Jones is a fantastic player.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I actually said Hamilton because I don't like Seth Jones.
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Seth, I'm kidding, Seth, because I know you're watching. I'm kidding.
No, it's just, both are great players, and it was just a thought, I had over the last week after talking to a few different people and then, preparing for this. But I think, Jones is definitely a bigger risk, but I think his reward potential is a lot bigger as well, a lot larger.
I can agree with that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I have a feeling Hamilton's staying put in Raleigh, to be honest.
I would if I were him.
Exactly. Yeah. Why would you go right there, right now with that team that they've got coming up and you're in the prime of your career?
And your coach is coming back.
But again, nobody asked me these questions, and it's probably for the best. Unless I'm interviewing Yzerman, of course, and then he'll probably ask my opinion, and I will freeze. But I digress. Let's throw one more name into the mix before we get to a few comments from past shows. Jack Eichel. That's been a fun name to hear. Really, honestly, for the past few months now. Obviously, we know the situation in Buffalo. Hasn't gone very well on a number of fronts for Eichel, and there are a lot of teams interested. I think Eichel's interested potentially in moving. I know he's made it clear he wasn't happy with how they handled his injury and things like that. So the question is, what about Jack Eichel? Is there any way that Yzerman could make a move to add Eichel to the roster? And is that even something Red Wings fans should be interested in? We'll go the same order. We'll go back to Kyle.
So, when I first heard this rumor kind of floated out there, I immediately said, no, like this is silly. But the more I've kind of thought about it, with obviously he has to get checked for his injury. He's probably going to need a surgery, a new type of surgery that is experimental, I believe still. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I know I play one on a YouTube show, but no. So having to go through that and have the surgery right away is something that's obviously going to be concerning when talking about bringing him on. If he were healthy, would I consider this trade? Absolutely. I think he could be that true number one center that Detroit's looking for. They're trying to make Larkin a true number two center, so they need an offensive threat on that top line. I think he could pair well with Verana and Zadina on the sides. I think that could be a very interesting and fun line to watch. So if he's healthy, yeah, why not? And maybe if we can get him really cheap, Yzerman's got to put those feelers out if he's going to have that surgery. If Buffalo really wants to move on from him, maybe you get him at bargain. And at which case I say, what's the harm in that? Why not try it? We have the money, we have the space, we have extra picks. Yeah, let's do it.
Sure. All I'm going to say, Kyle, is you really missed an opportunity to plug. You did stay at a Holiday Inn Express yesterday.
Well, they're not paying us
yet. That's why my Dr. Pepper's poured and not in the can today. Too. Anyway, Devin, your thoughts on Eichel?
I think your opinion on whether or not the Red Wings should pursue Jack Eichel, it really reflects where you think the Red Wings are at in their timeline. Sure. I don't think you get Jack Eichel if you're at the beginning of a rebuild. I think you get Jack Eichel if you're towards the end of it, and Jack Eichel is what pushes you into that playoff contender / Stanley Cup contender territory. That's why we hear the Rangers are in on him. That's why we hear the LA Kings are in on him. Those are teams that have a lot of good prospects and are good enough to where adding Jack Eichel puts them into that playoff conversation. I don't know that Eichel does that for the Red Wings. I think the worst case scenario for the Red Wings is that they get good enough to not get good lottery picks, but not. Did I say not good enough not bad enough to get lottery picks, sorry, and not good enough to actually make the playoffs. That like 12th to 15th spot, that's purgatory, and you do not want to be there. And I think that adding Jack Eichel puts them in danger of being in that area. And I know that they've got other kids coming up. You've got Lucas Raymond, you've got Moritz Seider, the list goes on. But you've got to give up a lot to get Jack Eichel in the first place. Oh yeah. So you're probably giving up a Zadina and a couple of first round picks and then some. Oh yeah. And I guess it just comes down to whether or not you think Eichel can put them over the top. And I don't think he can.
Yep. For what it's worth, Devin, I think we all knew what you were trying to say even before you explained it about not bad enough to get a lottery pick. Yeah, we know that scenario well, don't we? Ian, bring us home. Do the Red Wings pursue Jack Eichel?
And you gotta at least inquire. You gotta at least see what you gotta honestly, you have to at least see what the Sabres want for Eichel. Sure. I kind of was serious about Taylor Hall back at the trade deadline. Like if Taylor Hall is going,
we're gonna go down that. We're going down.
Yeah, I am gonna go down that because if Taylor Hall is cheap enough, and the Sabres are selling him for so low, why not trade for Taylor Hall? It's the same thing with Eichel. If Eichel is going for so low, if the Sabres are that desperate to get rid of him and they think it's so inconceivable, having him back is just so bad for the team and it's not going to work, the relationship is unattainable, then we have to get rid of him, then you get rid of him. But
sure,
I mean, the other thing, and this is why he is also going to be expensive, but he is 24 compared to the 28 that we talked about with Dougie Hamilton.
Oh, absolutely.
He is 24. So by the time at least I think in 4 years, 5 years, when the Red Wings are going to be competitive, he's still 28, 29. He's still right in the prime of what we think he can be. Again, also, like Kyle said, health-wise, assuming he's healthy.
And he's still under contract for that amount of time, too. He's got 5 more years on his deal.
Yeah. So I'm for it. I don't know that I pull the trigger on it because, again, it has to be for a deal that makes sense, and I don't know what the Sabres would be interested in. I don't know if the Sabres know what the Sabres are interested in. Sure. And you can at least offer, and you can at least see what's out there.
All good points. For what it's worth, I don't think I touched that with a 10-foot pole. Eichel has always kind of given me, not in style of play, but just in talent and what do you call it when you can't? I'm blanking right now, but in talent and power, right? Health. It always kind of reminded me of Eric Lindros. To be honest, just kind of not. Sorry, I know it took a half an hour to get that point out, but it was worth the wait, right? Lindros was, when he was on the ice, great, one of the best to watch, but injuries derailed his career, and that's always the feeling I got with Eichel. And I hope that's not the case. I love watching the kid play, but I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Devin, maybe you can say things a bit more eloquently than me.
I just another thing that gives me alarm, and like I get it from his side of things, but he's the captain of the Buffalo Sabres, and it really rubs me the wrong way when the captain gives up on a team.
Sure.
I don't know if that is fully reflective of his character and who he is. I get it. He wants to play meaningful games. I hate losing too. I wouldn't want to be on the Buffalo Sabres either. But if he's not rowing the boat in the right direction, who the hell is? And it rubs me the wrong way that he wants to jump ship. Can
I just say, I think that's why Detroit would be a really good fit for him, because you have stability at ownership, you have stability at management. Head coach, we don't need to start that debate again. But at least like there is like stability within the team, and there's a culture set within the team.
Sure.
That if you move to it and you go and become a Red Wing, I think that's some stability that he can at least look forward to and enjoy on a regular basis compared to being with the Sabres.
Well, I have to say, I'm actually a little bit surprised by the amount of debate that went on over Eichel. And good discussion, but we got to move on. So
I have two final points I just want to make real quick.
Sure.
So the first one to Devin's, bringing him on, I think where we could be in Detroit with Eichel there, I think he would be an okay fit. And, we could also bring him on with the expectation that if it's not going that well, kind of like what Ryan O'Reilly did. Sorry, I did lose my train of thought there for a second. Ryan O'Reilly had the same type of way. He's now in St. Louis, and he's a hell of a captain there. He led them to last place to a Stanley Cup Final and championship. So, it's possible as a captain, you do need a change of scenery. You're not trying to give up on your team. You're just, no matter what you're doing, you're just not getting those results because that support isn't there for you. So I think in that sense, yes, Pat said we would have that in Detroit for him. My other point, and this is the one I want to make, I think Ian as a general manager would start his day with 31 calls just saying, what are you in the mood for today?
I like it.
I would use up the phone bill so badly within like the Red Wings, within Olympia Sports.
Every morning. I might as well make a call.
They would just fire me. They would just fire me purely based on my electrical bill.
What kind of phone are you using if it's running up the electrical bill?
Yeah, you're for real.
He's calling from his Tesla. He's calling from his Tesla.
No, it's actually just Billy Bean and Moneyball, and it's just the same conference caller all over the same time.
I love that reference. Absolutely love that reference. But I'm going to avoid going on a tangent because we're already off track. And let's get to our fan comments because, my goodness, sorry for those of you watching. We did not add any comments in last week. I think you all understood, as we didn't think Darren McCarty necessarily was going to be answering those questions. So let's recap a couple of weeks of questions and just our past show. Viewer Rick Korth wonders, will the Red Wings pursue Tyler Johansson in the offseason? And I know somebody whose ears must have perked up immediately when that question came across. So Devin, let's start with you and the all-powerful Tyler Johansson, whom I love, by the way, as well. What say you on that? Should the Wings give it a run?
If there's anyone out there who's watching this show and has not watched our older episodes, I couldn't tell you which one it is specifically, but we definitely talked about this specific player because I wrote an article saying that the Red Wings should target Tyler Johansson for this exact same reason. And guess what? My opinion has not changed. The Lightning were able to wiggle their way around the salary cap this season, and
it's a nice way of putting it. Well done.
I picked my words wisely. What can I say? But I think that heading into this offseason, I don't know that they'll be able to do it again unless Giraffe blows another tire. I don't know. And I think that they will have to get rid of players like Tyler Johansson. He is their fourth line center right now. And I think if you ask anyone around the league, he's not a fourth line center. He's a middle six guy that can provide offense and skill to the lineup. He's a little bit overcompensated, if we're being honest, but that's why the Red Wings can target him and get something else out of it. Long story short, yes, I think it makes sense. And yes, I would love to see Yzerman do it.
I love it. I'm going to make the former Lightning reporter wait to give his answer because I know he's chomping at the bit. Ian, what do you think about our friend TJ?
Sure. I was going to say, I think I was on those prior episodes when we were talking
I'm
about
sure you were.
Tyler Johansson coming over to the Red Wings, and same sort of thing I've been talking about this whole show. Just add talent. Just add talent and find a way to make it happen.
Absolutely.
See what's out there. See what you can get for him. Make it happen.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Kyle, what do you think about the chances of Tyler Johansson wearing a winged wheel?
I'm not against it. So Yzerman had him in Tampa Bay. He saw his work ethic. He saw what he can bring to the table. He knows that he has that experience and that leadership ability without necessarily having to wear a letter. And I mean, honestly, he's a great upgrade from a Luke Glendening or a Simone Gagne, whoever. So yes, if it happens, I'm happy. I think he would be a great middle six, like you said. And so we'll see.
Tyler Johansson is an upgrade from Luke Glendening, maybe the understatement of the millennium right now. And I love you, Luke. I know you can win a face-off. We respect it. We get it. But I would definitely take Tyler Johansson.
Quick, did you guys see that Luke Glendening got votes for the Selke?
Of course he did.
Yeah.
Of course he did. He got the same amount of votes as Draisaitl did last season. I don't know if he got the same as Draisaitl this season, but
it makes sense too because he's been likened to Draper, and I know Drape's he was up there at least 1 year in voting. Luke, we love you. You got to tip your cap. He always gives it all. Heck of a penalty killer. Very good face-off. But I would take Tyler Johansson over Luke Glendening. I agree. So let's go back now to a couple shows ago. Kathy Volk or Volky. Kathy, I'm sorry I'm butchering your last name, but I gave it 2 attempts. Hopefully one of them was right. How much improved do you think the Red Wings are going to be next season? And I love this question because it also means, how are you measuring improvement? Are you measuring improvement? To this point, we haven't been measuring improvement in wins and losses, right? Obviously, or Blasio wouldn't be working anymore. So how do you measure improvement, and how improved do you think they're going to be? Ian, we're starting with you this time.
I think they'll probably finish they'll probably finish relatively the same winning percentage wise as next season. They are going, I think, to a tougher division, depending on how you feel about Toronto, Boston. Ottawa looked really good in the second half of the season. Montreal's in the top 4 of the playoffs. So, team-wise, I think the team will be better, but they are going to a tougher division. So I would expect a relatively the same winning percentage by this time next season. By this time next year. Makes sense.
Kyle, your thoughts on what to expect next year?
Yeah, so like you said, if we're going off of wins versus 1 year to the next, we had more wins than last year with fewer games played. So was it a success? yeah, I mean, yeah, we had a successful season this year.
Mhm.
So in that sense, if you're thinking of the same logic, then yeah, we want to make sure we're having more wins. We have more games to play next year, so we better have more wins. But Ian makes a great point. You're going to have to look at that win percentage. Are we steadily increasing that win percentage? That's showing that we're getting better. Yeah, this year to last year and next year to this year's comparisons are tough because of the division realignments. But this year we played in a division with the defending Stanley Cup champion and the runner-up. Next year we could be in a division with the defending Stanley Cup champion and the runner-up. If it's Tampa Bay versus Montreal, I think we're slated to be in both their divisions next year. So does that make it easier? No, but it's showing that there is some improvement there. For me to measure success this year, I think we need to see an increase in goals scored and an increase in our power play percentage and our power play goals scored as well. You can have a better power play percentage with fewer goals scored if you have less power plays. Math, who knows?
Math.
I've heard it works out that way sometimes. So I would like to see more power play goals, but obviously more of a higher power play percentage as well would be great.
I think that's a great measuring stick, Devin.
I was told there would be no math involved.
That's why I took it out for you.
There's a reason I got into English and journalism and writing, right? And it was to do the math.
Yeah,
that's very true. Very true.
Yeah. But to address the topic, we've all talked about the Red Wings division next year. But they're also probably going to play the rest of the league again too. And there's some good teams outside of the division.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget about the other 24 teams. And I think the Red Wings can get better without their record reflecting it. And I think it's honestly in their best interest that happens. Ideally, of course, you'd love to see them finish probably around 500 next year, but I don't know that that's in their best interest. I think that they still need to win a lottery or at least get a really good pick before the rebuild can really kind of start to wind down. And whether it's next year with Shane Wright or the year after that with Connor Bedard, they need one of those kids, and they aren't going to get it by finishing 15th in the standings. Unless, they're not the Rangers, they're not the Blackhawks. They don't have that luck. We've seen it.
It's true.
They have to improve on an individual and team basis without putting themselves in a situation where they're in that purgatory that I talked about a little bit ago.
Devin, you said you're not doing math, but props to you for incorporating Seattle in your 24 other teams. I have to say, see what you did there? That was well
I'm a pending
done.
Fan, man. I count them.
That was well done. Kyle, did you have some closing remarks to bring us home?
Well, I just had, I guess, a quick question to pose to you guys. Do you feel that a 30-win season, while having more wins, but also finishing, I think, I don't want to do the math, but it's what, a 0.28 win percentage or something like that? Do you think that's where we kind of need to be to show that improvement, but also to have that chance at the lottery?
I think 30 is like the max of what they can get while still having a good shot at getting a good pick.
Okay, because Sorry, go ahead, Ian.
I was going to say, I'd be pleasantly surprised if they got 30 and somehow still managed to do well in the lottery. Like, I would be pretty upbeat if that happened. But again, I also don't want to do math, so I don't know how that plays.
I'll let you wrap it up. My final comment on that was I could see this team winning 30 games next year, especially if they are able to fill that 1-2 pieces this offseason, to address some of those needs. And I would love to see them win 30 games. I think that would be a great sign of improvement across the board. But at the same time, Devin, you are 100% right. We need either, Wright next year, or Bedard, or, excuse me, but I can't remember his name, the kid from Russia that is also 15 that played amazingly. So, Pat, sorry to go on that tangent.
No, you're good. Kathy, just to kind of close it out, my humble opinion, I don't think the Red Wings are going to be bad enough to get a lottery pick. I really don't. I know you guys are kind of banking on it. I think we're past that. I think we're entering into purgatory, Devin, and it's going to go purgatory at this point goes one of two ways. How do you develop your talent? How do you develop your prospects? That's what happens when you're in purgatory. And I think that's where the Red Wings are headed, to be honest. I think the Red Wings are going to be much better defensively just by adding Seider. So they're going to be much better defensively. There's question marks in net. They're not going to be a good team, but I don't think they're going to be. I mean, I don't think they're going to be. They would be in the lottery, but you said it earlier, Devin. You know they're not going to win the lottery. They never win the lottery, and it's not going to start next season. So that's my 2 cents. I just don't think the Wings are going to be bad enough next year. But they're certainly not a playoff team. Well, I mean, unless something crazy happens in the offseason, but none of us expect that to happen. So.
Because this is also a weird time too, where it's right before draft and free agency, where you ask.
That's exactly right.
Which is totally fair. Like that's a really good question to ask right now.
It is. And
we have to revisit it.
We will
in
too.
September.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. It's a great way to break the ice, though, for sure. And last but not least, and this isn't even a comment, but Paradox Destroyer, we want to make sure you're okay. 2 weeks ago, you asked about Gallant potentially taking the Wings assistant job, and obviously that's not going to happen since the Rangers named him head coach, but we didn't see a comment from you from the McCarty show, and we're all legitimately concerned about your well-being. So make sure you leave us a comment after the show so that we know everything's okay. So
he's probably out destroying paradoxes, so it's okay.
Hey, you're right. You got to do that.
You got to do it.
Well done. All right, that's our comment corner for this show. We're going to end on a fun note. And you know how we like to end these shows, rapid fire, although there's only one question. And I want to know, who do you have in your Stanley Cup final? And I'll go first. And this is in black and white in the newsletter before any games were played. Tampa, Montreal. That's my pick. Ian?
Montreal and the Islanders.
Devin?
Ooh. Sorry to our producer, Melissa. Tampa and Vegas.
Kyle, bring us home.
As much as I'd love, a few of the other matchups, I see it being Tampa and Vegas as well.
Man, we almost got every possible combination.
I thought about it just to throw it out there, so at least one of us was right. But maybe I should. Okay,
too late. Dean. You are not to edit this out, Dean. Too late. He made his pick.
Yeah. So no, I think Tampa is going to outlast the the Islanders. Sorry, sure. Rangers fans. So I think Vegas is too much for Montreal.
Yeah, if Kucherov hadn't rested all year, I would have stood by. I don't think they would have had enough gas to get past Carolina. But with Kucherov and Stamkos relatively well rested, I just anyway.
Again, the phrasing is excellent.
Yeah. Well, hey, everything they did was legal. Yeah. Followed the rules.
It's true.
And we've seen other teams do it as well. So
and they're not the only team that
not at all. We like having fun at their expense, but it's not they follow the rules. They follow the rules.
They're the only team in the league that can have Nikita Kucherov sit out of their lineup all season and comfortably make the playoffs.
Almost sounds it gives you a 98 Red Wings vibe with Fedorov. Oh, by the way, who won the cup? Repeat that year. If you're looking for omens here, there might be one there.
Who else is kind of involved with both of those teams too?
Yeah, well, exactly. It all comes full circle. I love it.
Absolutely.
What a great show, Ian. Thank you for joining us today, Devin and Kyle. It's a pleasure as always. You guys are stuck with me, whether you like it or not. We want to thank you, the viewer, for joining us. Give us a like, a subscribe, a comment, share. We want to hear from you. So tweet at us at THW Grindline. We will answer your comments on the very next show. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.